welcome to Create a Smile. It's time for another Stencil Sunday today. Today I would like to talk about the ways to adhere your stencil to your surface or to your paper. And most of the stencils come in a frame. They are framed and most of them have all the pieces connected to each other. Some stencils do have a frame, but the pieces tend to slide around if you use your dauber, for example, on them. Just like this chevron from Heidi Swap, it tends to move in one direction. So some of the stencils are kind of wonky or not very sturdy. And I would also like to show you a stencil from the Polish company that we're working with this month. And I really love this design, but as you can see, the swirls do tend to move on the inside. So what I like to do with stencils to adhere them to my paper is not use washi tape on the top and on the bottom. I do that often, but with stencils like this with very intricate designs, I like to use spray adhesive. This is the one that I use. It's 3M spray mount. They do also come with creative mount. I think this is not as sticky. The most important thing about your spray adhesive is that it's repositionable. So as long as you're using a repositionable adhesive, it will work. So this is my spray box, and just use the repositionable adhesive on my stencil and spray it. Just spray a little bit of that adhesive to the stencil. Because my adhesive is very sticky, I like to use some scrap paper and rub some of the adhesive off, because I think I found out that if I don't do this step, some of the adhesive stays on my paper and I have to use an eraser. I can get it off of my paper again, of my project, but this is the easiest way not to have any adhesive on my project. I'm using paste today, and this is some it's not a textured paste, it's a modeling paste, and this is quite, yeah, it's very soft and very wet, and I found out that it tends to warp my paper a lot, and I want to ink it, so I used some charcoal ink from Hero Arts because I wanted to have a gray paste, and I'm inking this, and the ink makes it even more liquid, and as the since this paste was very liquid anyway, I'm using some baby powder to mix it in to get a paste that is a little more I don't know the word, a little more dry. This is it's still wet, but it does not warp my paper that bad anymore. So baby powder is just made of talcum, and this is the easiest way to use on your paste. Okay, so as you can see, I don't use any washi tape on my vellum and also on my stencil. I just press the stencil onto that surface and it does not move at all. Even the very intricate parts of the stencil do not move, and I can use the paste and then peel the stencil off my vellum. And I have to say that my vellum really warped a bit because the paste was wet and because the vellum reacts with liquid a little more than usual paper or cardstock does. So as you can see, I just peeled the stencil off carefully, made sure to get all of the swirls out there, and I have a very crisp image with the paste on the vellum. By the way, vellum on paste is one of the most beautiful things that you can put on a card, I think. I really wanted to use my heat gun to set this because it tends to dry way too long for me. I'm not a very patient person, so I used my heat gun. And I also used some wood underneath my non-stick craft sheet to make sure that the heat would not harm my cutting mat. I'm now using some sandpaper just because I thought that this gray paste looked like cement and I wanted to smoothen it out a bit. So I used some sandpaper, and the sandpaper, which was a grain of 2000, so it was a very fine sandpaper, really made the paste shine in some parts. These are some digital papers that I printed out, and I think they are just adorable, and I picked some grays and a mint piece of paper and adhered that to the card. I just cut it to the size that I needed, and I'm using my usual tape runner for the paper and the clear tape runner for the vellum because I didn't want to have any adhesive showing through the vellum. I think this mint paper with the arrows is so beautiful, and I am using the whimsical wheel set today, so it will be about movement with all the cars in there, and I'm using the ambulance, so I wanted to have the arrows to get some more movement. I think the swirls in the background are kind of moving, and the arrows are also, so they go together very well. And I love the texture of paste. So here's the whimsical wheel set, and I am stamping the ambulance just on some plain white cardstock with my Memento Tuxedo Black ink, because I will be using Copics to color it. And I'm using just a few colors, not too many, and I do not do a lot of blending this time. So this is very easy, and I think the ambulance doesn't need a lot of color. So I have some light blues and red, and that's it. I started with the darker blue and wanted to have some shading on the window. Then I decided I have to go in with the B00 also, and then went back to the BG70. And the BG70 is a very, very light mint color, and I think it's perfect to blend out blue shadows. I also use some C5 and C3 for the wheels, and the R17 for the cross. Then I took a dark blue color for the blue light, and that's it. So very simple coloring, and then I cut it out with my scissors, leaving a little white border around it. In this case, the whimsical wheels are good to be cut out with a white border, because the wheels are not always attached to the rest of the car. So this is the easiest way to get it cut out. I adhered it so that it overlapped with the arrow part. And then I wanted to stamp the sentiment that says "Wishing you speedy recovery," and I have some ready cutouts. And I picked a cloud and stamped the "Wishing you speedy recovery" on there, but it was a little off and not centered enough for me. It was too close to the edge, so I picked another cloud and stamped that again with my VersaFine ink, because the VersaFine is perfect for sentiments. I think I get the best impression with that, and it does not stain my stamps. That is why I love it more than the Sims stamping. I have a hard time accepting that my stamps are stained. I adhered that to the front of the card, and then I added some Wing of Stella clear glitter pen, and that finished the card for today. I hope you got inspired to take out your stencils and use some spray adhesive, and maybe use some baby powder to your paste. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to check back next time.